All right, this is a little more ACT stuff. The current work we're doing is so simple that I'm not really doing any of the homework. If you got a question, you can ask the next day in class. But the ACT stuff, that'll bother most of you. So make sure I do that. What do we have here? Ooh, we have a graph. Quadratic function f and triangle MPQ are graphed in a standard XY coordinate plane below. Points M, which has coordinates 2a, and 5b, points N, which would be at 4a, looks like 9b, and 6a, P, which is at 6a, 5b, are all on function f. Function f is the stuff that's actually drawn out. Point Q is not on f. In terms of a and b, what is the area in square unit coordinates of triangle MPQ? So the area of a triangle has a little simple formula. It's 1/2 base times height. Now this triangle has a base length right here to right here. It runs from 2a to 6a. So the base is going to be the difference between 6a and 2a, which is 4a. She has a height which goes from 0 to 5b. So it would be 5b minus 0b, which is 5b. Then we just plug into our little formula. We have 1/2 of 4a times 5b. And I know 4 times 5 is 20, and half of that's 10. 10ab. Not a hard problem. The issue is they're using these weird coordinates. Point M will remain fixed, so I'm moving on to 49, sorry. Point M will remain fixed, and point Q will move to the right along the x-axis. As Q moves to the right, which of the following statements describes what happens to the slope of M to Q? So here's point Q, and say it moves over here, all right? Because it's moving right. What happened? Well, the slope is not as steep. And I haven't looked at the wording of the questions here, but it's not as steep. You know, it's slowly decreasing, but it's still downhill. And it always will be downhill. It doesn't matter where you put it. If you put it way over here, it's still going to be downhill. So we are decreasing. It says eventually be negative. Slope's already negative. M to Q. A little confused in the wording here. The slope is increasing. Okay. That's D. The slope is increasing because it's not as steep, but it'll never be positive. It's always going to be negative. Wording threw me off in the answer choices, sorry. 50, which of the following values is equal to f of 5a? So this is something that would bother a lot of kids. We have function notation. Oops. There we go. We have function notation. And, we're using these odd things like not really numbers. They went ahead and they mixed numbers and letters together. It's a really simple problem to do. F of 5a, what we're going to do is we're going to go to 5a on the x-axis, which is going to be about right here. And then we're going to draw up to the function. That is where the x value is 5a. Now the value is the y value, 8b. That's how you find values on a graph. You go to the x-coordinate and then you look at the y-coordinate. It's not hard. 51, 12 jurors are needed for an upcoming trial. The diagram below illustrates a part of the process of jury selection. The 12 juries will be selected from a jury pool of 60 people. The court records show a trend that only 40% of the people who are summoned for jury duty actually appear, and that of the people who appear, 1/3 are excused. If the same trend continues, how many people should be summoned to have as close to 60 people in the jury pool? Okay. So I need 60 people. And I need to figure out what appeared there. So 60 is 2/3 of what? That's kind of what I'm asking myself. 60 is 2/3 of what? Well, I mean, I can do this on a calculator, but 90. 60 is 2/3 of 90. 90 people appeared and 30 were excused. Now, the reason I knew it says a third are excused. So a third of 90 is 30. And the question here is, how many do I summon? All right. They're saying only 40% of the people who are summoned actually appear. So 90 is 40% of what? That's a little harder. What you can do is you can take 90 and you can divide it by 0.4. And that'll tell you what it is. $2.25. And sure enough, if we were to take 225 and multiply it by 0.4, we'd get 90. And you know, it might make a lot of sense for kids on the ACT to start with answer choices and work their way down. For me, though, it was just quicker to work my way up, 225. 52, what is the 275th digit after the decimal point in the repeating decimal 0.6295? You see that little bar says this continues forever. I notice there's 4 digits here. So I'm going to take 275 and I'm going to divide it by 4. All right? Which is hopefully like 60 something. Maybe 63.75, I don't know. 68.75. So what does that mean? This means that 0.6295 happens 68 times. And then 75% of that pattern happens. So 75%, 3 and 4, we're going to see 629 show up at the very end, and the last digit would be a 9. They're looking to see if you can analyze patterns. You have that analytical skill that's required. 53, given that f of x is x squared minus 4 and g of x is x plus 3, what are all the values of x for which f of g of x is 0? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find what f of g of x is. Now, you've done some basic function notation so far, but to find f of g of x, we take that and we put her right there. Now, that's the first thing I'm going to find, f of g of x. She is something x plus 3 quantity squared, and then we have the minus 4. Now, the goal here is where is this 0? So now we ask ourselves, where is x plus 3 quantity squared minus 4 equals 0? This is just a couple of handful of steps. We're going to add 4 to both sides. We're going to counteract a square by taking a square root of both sides. The square root of 4 is going to be plus or minus 2. And the square cancels out the square root and vice versa. So x is going to be plus or minus 2 minus 4, not 2. And 2 minus 4 is going to be negative 2 or negative 6. Apparently, I've done something wrong because that's not a 4, that's a 3. Let's backtrack on this a little bit here. Sorry about that. There's my mistake. Fix that right there. That quantity of x plus 3 squared, take its square root. Square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. This will free up x plus 3. Then we're going to shift that 3 over, and then we're going to add or subtract 2. Now, negative 3 plus a 2 is negative 1, or negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. So those should be the answers. Not that hard. 54. See, the problem with 54 is this stuff. I know what that does to kids. Given that p is a positive number, n is a negative number, and the absolute value of p is greater than n, which of the following expressions has the greatest value? Some people can do this in their head. I'm just going to make up numbers. And it has to work for what it's given. So I'm going to let p, and it says p is a positive number, I'm going to let p be 7. N is a negative number, so let's let n be something like, let's do something wrong in the first place. Let's say n is negative 8. If n is negative 8, this won't be true. That's the absolute value of p has to be greater than the absolute value of n. Absolute value is distance from 0, it's always positive. So this doesn't work. So maybe we do something like a 4, a negative 4, because now it would work. And this is a strategy in ACT math, is to make up numbers. And I want to see which of the following expressions has the greatest value, so now I can just plug things in. And it is exhausting, but whatever. I would have, if I did example F, I would have 7 minus a negative 4 over 7. This is going to be 11/7. If I did G, I'd have 7 minus a negative 4, this time over n, a negative 4. This is 11 over negative 4, which is negative, but it's in absolute value bars, so now it's positive. 11/4 is bigger than 11/7. I'm forgetting those bars, aren't I? I get ahead of myself. If I did example H, here I would have 7 plus a negative 4 over 7 minus a negative 4. That's going to be 3/11. Now, so far, the biggest thing up here is G. I know that negative symbol throws some people off, but example J, 7 plus a negative 4. And it's going to be sitting over P, which is 7. This is 3/7, which is small. And then we have K. K is P plus N, 7 plus negative 4 over negative 4. This is going to be 3 over negative 4, but then you have the absolute value, so 3/4. Choice G. G is the biggest one up there. 11/4 is bigger than 11/7. If you don't know that, go to TI-84, push buttons, look at the decimal. And there is the ACT for your second homework assignment. You are welcome.